Today on CityCast Chicago. Chicago's restaurant industry is world renowned, but it's still bouncing back from the pandemic. I'm talking closures, ongoing worker shortages, and supply chain problems. Eater Chicago follows all the closings, openings, and trends of our dining scene. Editor Ashok Selvam is here with food trends he's watching in 2023. It's Monday, January 9th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is CityCast Chicago. Ashok, welcome back to CityCast Chicago.
Beautiful being here. Happy New Year, everyone.
I gotta ask, thinking back on your 2022, what restaurant gave you the experience that you think back most on from this past year?
Saturday, my baby's turning one, so like going out to eat, it wasn't. It was a little bit more of a luxury even for the editor reader Chicago. So like you pick. Yeah, you pick your poison and figure out like, oh, do I need to get a babysitter? But one of the best meals I had was about January last year in 88 Marketplace. That's the Chinese, Pan Asian grocery store. They call it, it's kind of on the outskirts of Chinatown, but really it's Pilsen. And on the ground floor, they have this steakhouse called Holu, Holu. And it's one of those tabletop steak spots. And we took the baby. Actually, it was closer to like late February, March. So he was already only a couple weeks in,
Uh-huh.
and they were totally family friendly. And I'm looking at these plates, these gorgeous plates, just just beautiful. It's a lot more fun, and it's got a lot of Chinese Asian flavors there. And the fact that my kid is just sitting and chilling in his stroller, and we were able to have that meal that really resonated with me and my wife.
Oh, that's beautiful. Last time we talked, people were feeling burned out in the industry going into 2023. What are you watching in terms of, restaurant workers and how it affects customers?
Chicago has a wonderful reputation to be like a city that's open at all hours and supposedly for everyone. So, if you're like a late shift worker, you can find something that, you won't be embarrassed to eat,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that we probably take for granted because we're in Chicago. Not a lot of other towns have this kind of amenity. So, you're seeing a lot of these restaurants trying to grapple. Do we have enough staff to stay out late? And I'm not talking about 10 o'clock. I'm not talking about 11 o'clock. I'm talking like 9 o'clock right now.
Oh,
That's how
wow.
we're spread thin. Folks are uh, fled the restaurant industry and are settling up, but we're also seeing a little bit of a bounce back. I think this is probably going to be an annual thing that we just learn to live with new variants, etc. But they're becoming more comfortable, and also from the Eater Chicago perspective, we didn't see a lot of high profile openings in 2022. So for a restaurant worker to make cash, there needs to be a busy restaurant. There needs to be buzz. I was just compiling a list for our most anticipated openings of the year, and just my short list, I have 20 spots. 20 spots that I'm excited about and like legitimately excited about. 2023 could be a banner year.
Oh man, I'm liking that energy. You talk about people coming back. You're starting to feel that bounce a little bit. How are people feeling about prices? Are you hearing any complaints from customers about current surcharges or anything like that?
Well, inflation has
Mm-hmm.
made things like real expensive, and restaurant folks aren't really into making the adjustments on menus because there's always this fear, like, oh, if you can get, say, a burger for $8 in one place, a customer will just find some place around the block that's selling it for five. I think that's a little bit of an outdated mentality, especially with so much online ordering and takeout. I saw some good news this morning. Honey Butter Fried Chicken sent a message this morning saying for the first time in several months, prices are dropping. And they're going to adjust their prices to the customer, which is totally unheard of. If you could almost forgive a restaurant for, kind of quote unquote pocketing. They're not really pocketing. Restaurants are really razor thin with the profit margins. When you see a surcharge with, like you said, they're not like gonna put that into their money bin like Scrooge McDuck. They're not swimming. They're just like, maybe we're gonna pay our power bill,
Yeah.
maybe our gas bill. Let's make sure we don't get the late charges. Surcharge. Like folks complain about surcharges are so hilarious. It's a imperfect industry when you rely on tips. There's got to be the customer needs to, if they care about these restaurants, they need to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Mm. You talk about anticipated openings, you talk about the scene. Just when we're thinking about price, how are you feeling about the range of options?
That's one of the greatest strengths of our city. I'll put Chicago, quote unquote, street food, affordable food, the fast casual. Like we were doing fast casual before that was a thing, and that's the diversity has always been a strength. I see that continuing, but there's kind of the delivery charge that from DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats that we have learned to kind of it's been normalized to an extent.
Yeah.
The kind of the charges that we were so up in arms out of a couple years ago, they're still not exactly super beneficial to all restaurants, but we figured it out. Like if we want that convenience, we're gonna have to pay a little bit more. Uh, I think that fine dining there hasn't been a huge explosion in Chicago even before the pandemic. I'm talking about those coursed out meals. Of those 20 restaurants that I picked out, there are like five or six that could qualify for those tasting menus. And that's kind of like I hate to sound like that, but it's sometimes fine dining is like the engine that kind of helps other restaurants. When folks are like talking about Chicago, they point out restaurants like Oriole or Alinea, and these are restaurants that have been around for a while, and talent wants to go work there. There's a great place near kind of the Evanston Chicago border, Kamai Fine Dining.
Hmm.
It is a rare. It's one of two Cambodian restaurants in Chicago, and the it's a mother daughter chef duo. And it's not the $2 $3 tacos that you probably get like at after midnight or something like that. But for the quality of food and just it's so special and unique, you're not like you don't have to save up like a month's salary to go to these places. And that, while that isn't exactly affordable, that's a lot. The delight, you're supporting an industry that really wants to serve you and quite frankly needs it right now.
Woo, we made it to 2023. But does anybody else feel like you kind of just crashed into the end of the year and now it feels like the sky's the limit for new beginnings? So, you already know what I'm going to say, right? Now is the time to listen to How to Buy a Home podcast. Buying your first home is a cool New Year's resolution, but it takes a lot of work and it's tough to know exactly where to start. So let host David Sidoni walk you through everything you need to know. Since 2005, he's helped plenty of listeners close on homes they thought were impossible, and he can even connect you to a realtor. Start planning today at howtobuyahome.com and make this the last year you rent. Find How to Buy a Home on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Moving to bars and drinking, what are some of the trends you're seeing with Chicago's, range of bars from the dive bars to the clubs?
Well, Jacoby, it's January, and I swear, if I get one more email that says something like sober curious, I'm not going to be a happy person because everyone is like peddling their spirit-free, non-alcoholic drink. We got some breweries doing it. The big hip one is Athletic Brewery, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone's drinking that because this isn't your like, your parents' O'Doul's. These are actually beers that you might actually enjoy without the alcohol content. So that's going to see an explosion, especially for New Year's resolutioners. I'm seeing a lot of new products, and it's going to be like kind of a survival of like fittest. I'm not sure if it's going to be necessarily first market.
Mm-hmm.
You always compare if you're like a little older. You remember Beta versus VHS. Beta was a superior format, but VHS beat them. So that was
It
the
won out.
format everyone
But do
selected.
you
Go ahead.
think that is that something we always see at the top of January? Because coming out of the 3 month holiday swing that is Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, a lot of people are looking to just maybe slow down a little bit coming into January. Maybe it was lights out on New Year's, or particularly this year, you're just seeing people just really latch onto it even more in terms of the number of products. So it's not just a New Year's resolution you're seeing a lot, but the market is actually responding to it.
You know, folks thought White Claw was for New Year resolutions, and it's hard seltzer is here to stay. Like it's literally everywhere,
I
and
mean, Chicago's
I
doing
don't
a
think.
festival soon, right? NA Fest.
Yeah, I got the invite for that. I think it's really clever marketing. You know, people because January is a traditionally a slow month because we're recovering from the holidays. The weather isn't too good. That's why they have Chicago Restaurant Week to get butts in their seats. So, you know, it's very clever. I would be surprised. Maybe there are 20 or 30 products at that festival. Maybe 10 make it out of the year.
Mm.
Maybe they'll continue. It's just like just flood the market, see what sticks, and then see what happens.
Speaking of another thing that's surging in the city, plant-based fast food options at restaurants. I've seen a few just pop up in my neighborhood over here on the southeast side. You know, where does that stand, and will its popularity continue this year?
That was an idea from one of my colleagues, Naomi Waxman. She's been seeing that. I think overall, like just a reduction in meat that makes people feel good. Also, meat is expensive. I like. I can't believe it's not meat. They have got a couple locations. They got a pretty good full Philly cheesesteak. I just hope
I like the little
that
pizza poof.
the pizza poof, pizza poof.
Hmm.
Now, do you like the like when it comes to plant-based, would you rather it taste like meat or go like separate? Because that's kind of like a huge debate.
I actually prefer if it doesn't taste like meat and has its own kind of rich flavor. But I think it really goes wrong when people are trying to taste like meat because they want me to kind of trick myself into being like, oh no, I'm actually eating a hamburger. I know what I'm eating. I know what I ordered.
You know what it is. You signed up for it. In that list that I was talking about, most anticipated, the owner of Amaru and there's a restaurant called Bloom Plant-Based Kitchen. Both are in one's in Wicker Park, one's in Bucktown. He's going to Logan Square, and he's opening a vegan taqueria.
Obviously, most of the food that we're gonna possibly consume, or at least across the city, most of the food people consume, is coming from the grocery stores, right? And the pandemic changed the way we grocery shop. Plus, you know, last fall, the iconic Chicago grocery store Jewel and Mariano's are, you know, coming to merge eventually. This is huge news. What does this mean for the grocery market here?
It's too funny. When uh, there's a mini chain that just started called Dom's Market. They were affiliated with Mariano's, but they're a separate entity, and they opened a location in Old Town. Not exactly a food desert, right? You know, real estate prices high. Mayor Lightfoot was there, but one of the a point that she made, it kind of alludes to something that you mentioned. If you open a grocery store, it's just not like a place that you get your, you know, your goods, your canned goods to cook at home. Most of these stores now have little mini restaurants or food courts in
Yeah.
underserved areas. If you kind of bundle and share that risk instead of having a coffee shop, a restaurant, you know, you saw in Englewood they got the Starbucks is still there, the Whole Foods is gone, and they're still trying to wonder what is going to replace them.
When you know make that example, I think about the local market over that took over the shuttered Dominic's in South Shore. I'd argue they got one of the best hot bars in the city, and it is ah, it's a real meal.
Yeah, that's going to be so important to the future of the city. Grocery stores are really going to become community centers. Now, I'm curious on how this Mariano Jewel thing is going to work out. We're working, waiting on the feds to approve that because Mariano's parent company is Kroger's. And I've been to Kroger in Michigan. It doesn't really offer much advantage over Jewel's. I was joking there. I saw in a Facebook group that folks are complaining that Mariano's doesn't take Apple Pay. And you know that like certain conveniences are going to go away, and it's going to take a period of adjustment.
Going into 2023, what's the one thing you're going to be paying maybe close attention to in 2023?
I'm going to be paying attention if all that energy from 2020 when it was about workers' rights, believe workers, are we going to continue put the worker first? Or was that just kind of some sort of public display to, you know, you put a black square on your Instagram and then forget about it? Are we, you know, I see a little bit of that energy wearing out. I'm hoping that there are more opportunities for folks, especially women and people of color, and these big companies to identify talent and elevate them and promote. And there needs to be better mentorship, or we're going to have a really bored food scene. No one wants that.
Ashok, thank you so much to coming back to CityCast Chicago. Editor of The Eater Chicago, Ashok Selvam. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Before I let you go, a little bit of news, y'all. The Illinois House voted early Friday morning to ban military-style weapons and provide increased protections for providers and patients seeking abortion care. Now, both measures will have to move to the Illinois Senate before the current legislative session ends Wednesday. We talked to the sponsor of that first bill last week. I got a link for you in the show notes for you to hear that conversation. We're going to have to wait until March for the Illinois Supreme Court to hear arguments about the constitutionality and future of the Safety Act's end of cash bail. More than half of all Illinois counties filed an 11th hour lawsuit continuing cash bail in many courts across the state. One of Chicago's largest utilities has filed for a nearly $200 million rate increase, which will result in a $12 increase for the average customer per month. Now, if you dig into the details, that figure could balloon to up to $400 million, as People's Gas also wants to keep customers on the hook for their ongoing pipeline replacement program. And some good news to get you through. This Sunday, I'm performing my first ever one-man show, Lessons from Granny. Now, I can't give away many details, but it's an hour-long storytelling show dedicated to the Black matriarchs who made me who I am. Check the link below for tickets, location, and more information. As always, I appreciate you for listening. Hopefully, I'm going to see you there. In the meantime, in between time, subscribe to our daily newsletter, Hey Chicago, at chicago.citycast.fm. If you've already done that, do me a huge favor. Leave us a rating and a review below. It helps other people find CityCast Chicago in 2023. You can find me here tomorrow. I'll talk to you then. Peace. Ashok Selvam.
Sylvan, that's fine.
All right. Ashok Selvam. You said fine. Vam.
You could go Bob. It's honestly, my parents say it both ways, so it's all good.
Ashok Selvam. I got you.